before you before you say anything, because I want to introduce you. And the way I introduce on the Marty Grisani show, my first episode. See, what happens, Justin, is people are going to go back, years and years of this catalog, and they're going to go, I wonder who was the first episode. I wonder who the first guest was on this show. So before I introduce you, before you can say anything, all right, before you can talk, I want to say a little something about you. Justin is somebody who I look up to. He is a mentor to me. He may not know that. He is somebody who I believe is living right now his true self life. I think he had to find it, which is what I wanted to get into today. And I know there was a number of different uh, barriers to get to where he is today, which is another reason why I wanted him on. For the audience, as you know, this show is about interviewing all stars, world class people. And he just happens to be world class in not just business, but also with his family. And I'm very excited to have him. One of the reasons why I wanted him on too is not just to talk about how good of a person he is, but he was able to start a business, which in itself is very tough. Profit in that business, which again is another story. Okay. Anybody can, it takes a special person to start a business. Then it takes an even specialer person to make money in their business. But then he was able to sell his business. So he is your entrepreneur's favorite entrepreneur. And I know I say that about everybody, but this time I mean it. Justin Francisco, welcome to the show.
Mar- Marty, can I make a request? Can you introduce me that way to anybody that we meet in the future and in person and I shake their hand? That would be great. That would
I
be a
got
great
you, buddy.
request.
I swear, and that's all true. And this is really exciting because I've known you, and we've become good friends, but I don't think that people know who you are, and they should. You had a show, and it was a great show on YouTube. You had a podcast that I loved, and it was nice enough that you had me on there. But if you could just let the audience know a little bit of who you are, what you do, and then I want to get into some of the more sexy stuff about the business and the selling of that. But if you could just give us a little bit of a heads up on who you are.
So, Marty, I think you did a great job explaining a little bit. I think it's for the audience listening, it's pretty serendipitous. I ran a podcast called Mindful Impact, and my initial goal was just to get deeper into spiritual leaders and business leaders and see what that was all about. And it turned into something pretty neat where I interviewed 100 people. And my first one that I had on was Marty. And it's pretty serendipitous, as I said, where it came full circle. And you asked me to be on as your first um, guinea pig. I don't know. I guess that may not be the right word, but I'm
Certainly,
excited to talk.
certainly.
Whatever. Yeah. So he mentioned family. Marty mentioned family. I'm a father first and foremost, and a husband first and foremost. Family is hands down number one priority in my life. I have a 6-year-old daughter, almost 7, and I also have a son who is just turned 4 years old, and that's my number one focus. And second, after that, really right now in my life at 37 years old is business and impact. So we can start wherever you'd like, Marty, when it comes to selling business, where it started, a story. I mean, wherever we want to go with this.
No, I think you're absolutely right. You are a father first. It was funny. Just before we got on the show, Justin showed me what he was doing. He was like, "Hey, by the way, if it gets a little noisy, the kids are going to bed. They had a little bath time." It was just you can tell that
Here,
he
I'll pull
just
it right up. I'll pull it up right here, Marty. So I texted you right beforehand,
yeah,
so you understand. And this is my truth. I texted him a picture of the kids in the bath. My son's pouring water on his head,
yeah,
and he said, in case you're wondering what goes on behind the scenes before our call, and that's
yeah,
the picture if you're watching on video. So yeah, I
yeah.
mean that's the truth. Like I'm gonna get family time in, and I even over the course of my business life, my entrepreneur life, I was always now in the beginning of this, you said that I'm living I guess maybe in my truth, or I'm living my life. I can't remember the exact words you were said.
Yeah.
The truth is it's an everyday discovery,
Mm-hmm.
and an everyday balance,
Mm-hmm.
where I try to find that. It's an everyday effort, kind of, not like a forceful effort, but an awareness, paying attention to how I'm balancing work, family, life, and everything else, friends, and everything else that comes into it.
Do you think
Um,
that, Justin, do you think that like every day you wake up and you're like, all right, this is a new, it's like every day is new, but I feel like you are able to, like when you wake up, are you saying, hey, I have my business, I have my family, but is it like literally an adventure for you every day?
Interesting question. So right now is a lot different than it was 10 years ago, or even 5 years ago. And that's what I really like about life, is where if you open yourself up and allow yourself to constantly grow and learn, life can be an adventure every single day. Uh, that's not to say it's an easy adventure or not a painful one at times, right? We take the good with the bad. But I've been in a position where I'm waking up at 5 a.m. every single day, doing my meditation, my reading, my journaling. I actually learned it from a book called What Millionaires Do Before 8 a.m. And it's called the Savers Method. Have you heard of that?
I
I think
love
we
it.
discussed it before.
Yeah.
I mean, I went hard into it. I mean, I was
Wait,
waking up.
Justin, say what the Savers is for the people who don't know.
So Savers method. Now, if I remember correctly, it's silence, and then which is meditation first thing. So when you wake up in the morning, you do your SAVERS. So silence. Um, do you remember what A is?
Affirmations,
Affirmations. Um, V. You're gonna have to help me out.
visualizations. I got
I
you.
read this book 4 years ago, so
Yeah.
I don't
Yep.
remember exactly what they were, but I just know the order of what I do. Right. So you have visualizations, E,
Exercise.
exercise,
Yep. R is
R,
reading.
reading, and
Yes is tough because it's scribing, which is
scribing, right, which is journaling.
journaling.
So yeah, so those, I don't name them those specific things, right? But
Right.
that's what I learned it. So I woke up every day. I did that, and I did each one. And it took me about an hour to go through the whole thing. And when I first did it, it was so out of my comfort zone and unordinary for me, because I loved sleeping in. My wife would look at me like I have three heads. She's like, "Who are you? What are you doing? This is weird,"
Yes.
And I just, which I totally have empathy and compassion for, because I'm sure for her it was super weird. After like a week, it just felt normal, right? And I look forward to doing it every day. I did it while now this is for anyone listening that has family. I did it I started when my son, it just happened to be the timing. I'll take a step back. A lot of people, I'm not like this. I know it's in some people's personality, but they'll say, I'll start on Monday, right? Oh, I'll start next month after my vacation. I just do it. Right. So
Love
I
it.
hear, oh, this book is good. I read it. Okay, I'm going to do it tomorrow. Like don't choose a certain, because usually what happens, we just kind of procrastinating, and then that's just going to roll into us choosing, oh, I won't do that today, I'll do that tomorrow, and then you just end up falling off anyway. So I just jump right into it. And I think that's a big attribute, a strong attribute when it comes to entrepreneurship too. I think it's the one thing that just misses between somebody that has ideas and someone that executes, is just doing it. I mean, you have a ton of houses, and I don't. And the reason I don't have houses because because I haven't done it yet. And we've had conversations where I'm like, I just need to do it. I just need to invest in my first house. I just can't. I just haven't done it. So, and I did it while my son was born. Right around, I don't know, he was a few months old. So he was playing this game with me. And anybody that has a newborn understands, where I'd wake up at 5 and he'd wake up at 5:05. And I'd say, okay, you're going to play that with me. I'm going to wake up at 4:30. So I get up a half hour before you. And
Yes.
then he'd wake up at 4:35.
Yeah.
So it didn't matter. Like after a while, what time I woke up, he would just get up. So then I had to have like this thing where some days my wife would get up. Some days I would get up just so I can do my routine. Right.
Right.
Or I'd get up and then I'd wait for her to get up, and then I'd go and do my routine. So you just work around your situation. But anyway, where I was going with that was and then I took some time off of it for a little while. And then I got back into it a little bit, and I did that and you could, this is, I'm answering what you said earlier about living in your truth and your happiness, or,
Yes.
and you kind of just become aware of at certain points in your life, certain things are going to matter more, and certain things are going to make you happy, certain things, and you just, you play this dance every day, in a gentle way, right? Kind of just flowing with life. And that's right now, kind of how I play life when it comes
Yeah,
to the
and you
mornings.
figured, I think you figured it out. Like I really do. I really feel like, and I just, I know like no one ever figures it out, but I think you're going down a path that I inspire to go down. And I know it didn't start there, right? Because I know that, because if we go back even further, right? I know you started your career, because I know a little bit about you. So you started your career at a sales company. And do you think that being in sales helped with your entrepreneurship? And even more so, did it discipline you? Because one of the things you talked about was doing these morning routines. And I know for morning routines, and I know for, entrepreneurship, like anything, starting a diet, going to the gym, you can be motivated and it could work for a month, right? And you could maybe become a business owner for a month, or, work on something for a month or two. But discipline really comes into play here for it to be something that's long lasting. And I know these things that you do, meditation, your business, obviously you've taken it to the, the duration to accomplish your goals. Do you think that being in sales helped out with that?
Yeah. So let me, well, you said a lot in that, and I want to answer all of it. I became a meditation teacher just because of how much daily meditation practice completely changed my life in ways that I can't even articulate. And so I decided I wanted to become a teacher, learn more, get deeper into it. So that's just a side note. But to answer your question, here's my philosophy. Here's what I kind of figured out over the years is I think there's, I have this natural energy, okay, that only like a certain percentage of people have, that outgoing, get energy off of talking to people. And I'm sure you can relate to this, right? Some people walk in a room and that's not where they get their energy from. After an hour, they're drained. They want to go
You
to
have
sleep,
that. You have that.
right? Which is fine. Like that's totally okay. I naturally have well, back when we started at sales, the same company together, I graduated a computer programming degree, but I was super outgoing. So, at that time I was young, drinking a lot, still getting up, making sales. I couldn't, I could never do that now at 37, right? But that was just natural for me. Like there was no secret, there was no, I would look at people and say, "What do you mean? Why don't you have that ability to just start talking to somebody jibber jabber and sell them something, go back, be pumped, get excited, all that stuff." I was just go, 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 like full steam ahead, nonstop. How can I make money? How can I like drink, hook up with girls? You know what I mean? Like that
Sure.
was just it. That was my mindset. Um, Throughout life, that changes, and also when it comes to entrepreneurship, the sales aspect of things did help a lot. I learned a lot in there, but I'm not sure. Like, yeah, sales plays a lot. You're always selling yourself, right? I had a person on my podcast. It was, I mean, I don't even want to mention that. Never mind. So it was, yeah, sales has a lot to do with entrepreneurship. Does that kind of answer your question?
It does. It does. And I think what I'm really getting at with that is that I think with sales, you really are running your own business, so to speak, because you have your own office in a way of like, hey, you have to make sure you hit a certain number. You learn a ton about business itself. I
Yeah.
was just thinking, hey, did that help when you started your business? Because the other thing that you did is because you have an interesting career. You go from a salesperson and then you go into insurance, which is like the most boring thing in the entire planet, in my opinion. And so, so obviously, there was, you didn't stay there very long, but what was your thoughts there? Like, hey, I'm going to go in sales. I'm going to take this on. But because like, here's what I'm getting at. There was a lot of barriers to get to where you ended up selling your business for over for seven
Okay.
figures, right?
Yeah. Yes. There was, so yeah, to lead up to that. Now, here's the truth. My memory of like those times is so gone. Like I'm not someone that holds on to the past, that thinks
Sure.
about the past a lot. And especially with my meditation practice, it just is like present moment, present moment, present moment, next step, next step, next step. And that's like all my brain goes to, right? So you asked me these questions reminiscing about working at a sales company, all that. I don't think about that much, right?
That's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, so I mean, in college, I joined like 3 multi-level marketing companies, MLMs, ACN. I can't remember the other 2. I did Cutco, where I sold knives. I did everything to hustle. I mean, I was just a pure hustler, right? And that's just, again, uh, that was just a natural. There's no explaining. I didn't do anything special, right? It was just naturally, instinctively in me to hustle like that. So anytime a roadblock came up, so I left there. I was making, I'll just say I was making like 60 grand at my sales job, right? I left there to make $30,000 at a State Farm insurance agency. So I cut my income in half. I didn't care. What I wanted to do was start my own insurance agency. So I went there, I did an apprenticeship. I got approved by the board at State Farm to open up my own State Farm insurance office. I had to do a big presentation in front of a bunch of big wigs, and it went well. And I was super young at the time. And then I realized, after like really thinking and looking at my boss at the time, he was that guy. And that's fine. Like, I don't, like, if you're an insurance agency, an agent, fine, but you become that person. So every time you're around a friend, I was like selling them insurance.
Mm,
Because I
brutal.
was always trying to sell a
It's
policy.
tough. Yeah, it's
Again,
tough.
it's the hustler mentality. So like, I just don't want to be that person right now. So I started a cornhole league of Rochester. I
Yeah, I
wanted to
loved
meet
it.
people. Yeah, you played in it,
I
right?
played. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to meet people. It was probably the most eye-opening, fun. Those feelings in life that you get that you can never repeat.
Yeah.
Like the feeling of selling a business. Like, I'll never get that feeling again.
Mm,
That, like, I remember the phone call, I'm sitting there making dinner with my wife, and we're drinking a glass of wine, and my phone rings, and it was like, "Hey, check your bank account. It's officially been wired." And we look at each other and we're like, "Okay." It was like this weird moment, but like you could feel it,
It's amazing.
and nobody else is around. Our kids are like waiting for us to feed them. Like, people think there's this like eureka moment where you're just there, and there's like hundreds of people around you, and you're like slapping high fives, and you're pouring Dom Perignon bottles on you right when you tell your
You're not doing that? Okay.
No, I was like, I told you the exact scenario, right? And it was a great feeling. Like, I was super grateful. We were pumped. We were happy. And but never very hard to get that again. So when I started that cornhole business, it was the first time ever I ventured on my own and like started something from scratch and
Right.
actually had people in it. And so I was going to the sponsors, getting sponsors and all that. And I just had this invigorating feeling of like loving the interactions I was making, the relationships I was creating, the connections I was having. And I realized at that time that I wanted this feeling all the time.
Mm,
So it was kind of at that moment where I'm just like, all right, I need to do business, entrepreneurship, start my own thing, run my own stuff. And that's when I reached out to a friend online that was doing internet marketing stuff. I've been following him for a little while on Facebook, and this was back in 2011. And I've been told this too many times, but I said, "Hey, can I buy you lunch?" And he goes, I'll buy you lunch. We'll meet at Moe's. So we met at Moe's, and I sat down, and I'm just a straightforward person. I was like, all right, I don't want to get scammed here. I don't want to do something stupid. Show me your bank account and prove to me that you're making money.
oh wow, Wolf of Wall Street style. If you show me you make $70,000 a month, I'll come work for you.
At the time in 2011, his bank account had like 120 grand in it. And I
Yeah,
was like, I haven't seen that. I haven't seen 20 grand, in a bank account at that time. So I
sure.
was in shock. And at that moment, it was over with. I'm like, I went to his house. I went to State Farm. And then I went to his house every day until 9 p.m., made him show me his work every single day. My wife was like, "Are you ever going to be home?" I'm like, "No, I'm learning this business." Went in. um, and just started doing it myself. For fast forward, long story short, I thought I knew what I was doing. And after spending about $40,000 on credit cards and having about $300 left in my bank account, I'm sitting there on my couch watching Sopranos. It's a beautiful summer day. I got all the shades down at my house. So it's really dark in the room. And I'll never forget this moment. I have my hand, like my hands are, and there's obviously a lot that led up to this, but I'm just have my head in my hands. And I'm not a crier at all. I wasn't a crier. I'm a little bit more now, but I just tears of like, what am I going to do? My wife had no idea. I was married. She had no clue that I racked up all this credit card debt. And this is not
Really?
something I recommend. But again, it was just my personality. Just go, 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 do
Right.
whatever it takes. And uh, I went online and I knew there was an event coming up. So one of the things that um, someone told me is that you got to go to events to connect and make relationships and meet people.
Sure.
So I messaged a few people I did business with online and that I knew were going, and I asked if they knew of a free place to stay or anywhere I could stay that was super cheap. I had just enough money on my credit card, no exaggeration, $600 for a flight to Denver and back. That's where the event was. And I booked it before I even knew if I had a room. I said, screw it, I'm going. I'll figure
Love
my
it.
room out. Like I was just going to fly there and find somewhere to stay. Like
Love it.
that was that was my last desperate attempt. Like this
I
was
love it.
literally it. And again, I don't recommend this. I'm just telling you how the risk I took. Um, the person online ended up saying, hey, it was like a day before, I think, if I remember correctly. And he's like, hey, you can stay with me. And he gave me a cell phone. It's like, sweet. And I did a little bit of business with him, a couple wires back and forth over the past few months when I was trying to build this internet business. And I'll never forget, I show up. He's at a rooftop, having a drink at a rooftop bar. And I show up and I text him, I'm like, I'm here. And he texted me back, no, you're not. And I said, yeah, where are you? What are you wearing? And I went over to him and he turned like ghost white, right? Because he couldn't believe, because he was like, I can't believe you showed up. Like no one shows up.
Oh,
No one
wow.
actually does what they say they're going to do, especially something like this, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And I, never met. And he's like, all right, I guess we got to figure it out. And we had to get a cot put in the room because he didn't have that big of a room.
That is
And
amazing.
he slept on the cot and actually gave me the bed, which was super cool. But it was like 4 nights or 5 nights and didn't even know it. He knew all the top people at this event. So I started getting connected and introduced to all these top people, came back with some ideas and some new connections, hit up my now business partner that I sold the company with. And I was like, hey, I have an idea. Here's how you can get involved. Here's my part. Let's do it. We did it together and took off. 4 months later, I paid off all the credit card debt. And honestly, I mean, it's been a little roller coaster since, obviously, but COVID hit. And during COVID, I was like, I'm just going to buckle down. And we'll talk more about this because there's some interesting pieces to it. But I'm just going to buckle down and try and sell this company. So that's what we did. And we ended up finding, just by luck, found somebody and ended up closing the deal in November of last year for high 7 figures.
Let's go. Let's go. You know what's crazy about that story? And it's something where I kind of hope it's not what is gotta happen, but it's almost like you always have to be like a dollar away from bankruptcy. Like, why is it that every story has to be a dollar away from bankruptcy? And it's like, I don't necessarily want to do that, right? But that's why we have podcasts, right? That's why you didn't have those luxuries back then. You weren't like but I know you were a student for sure, but that's the thing. It's like, hey, this is why I'm doing this. This show is for me. For those listening, good for you if you're listening. All right, congrats. But this show is it is really my journey to find out how I can do it, and there's different ways of doing it, and Justin has there's 27 ways to be a successful business owner. And now Justin's throwing us the 28th, which is, hey, I fly to Denver on a hope and a dream. And literally, I think when there's no plan B and you didn't have a plan B, that's when the magic happens. Would you say that's true?
At that point, I had a one track mind. I had no other plan. And yeah, maybe, I mean, it could have went the complete opposite where I went and learned nothing. But I mean, that's why there's so much luck. I think anybody you talk to that had any sort of financial success will tell you there's a lot of luck involved. What are the chances that the person that said yes to me staying with them was plugged in with all the top people at this industry event? I mean, there was thousands of people at this event and they were with all the top. And I'm like, what are the chances of that? Right. That's luck. So I learned some things I would have never learned if I was just put with somebody who had a back row seat at the place.
But don't you think that also, because you're right, but don't you think it actually maybe the answer was exactly what that guy said to you when you showed up? No one ever goes there. No one ever actually takes me up on this. No one actually ever comes here.
Yeah.
I
So
think
I'm
that's
glad you just
that.
mentioned that,
You're right.
Marty. So what I've learned dealing with a lot of individuals with my network that I had to deal with a lot of people. It's so simple to separate yourself from your competition. The reason my network sold and no one else's did was because we actually said what we do.
Hmm.
So when an affiliate, they're called affiliate and advertisers, when somebody messaged me and asked for something or had asked for a favor, and I said yes, I followed through. And if I didn't right away, I got to them the next day or the next day after that and just said, hey, sorry, I didn't get back to you right away. But here's the answer or
Oh, that's
whatever,
so good. That's so
or
good.
so it's that easy, because if you really take inventory throughout your day and listen to what people say, but their actions don't follow what they say. Oh, I'm gonna work out this month. I'm really hard. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna, I don't believe in worrying about losing weight and all that, but I'll just say, like, I'm gonna lose 15 pounds this month. I'm gonna work really hard. I'm gonna go 2-a-days. And that person does it for like 3 days and they stop. Or they say, hey, I want to meet you at the gym every day, every Thursday and Friday for the next year. Let's do it together. They show up for the first one or two, and then they're starting to make excuses after that. I mean, this is like 98% of the world that does this. So that's why it's so easy. And that's just, I'm trying to make a relatable example exercise, which everybody is always up and down on.
Yep.
That's just a small example, but there's so many different points in our life where we're talking about doing something or telling somebody we're going to do something, and then we forget and don't do it. It's so easy to separate yourself from everybody else by just doing it. Like,
Boom. Boom. That's a
that's it.
dropping bomb. That's a Bradley dropping bomb right there. You're right. I think that's the separator, is people actually doing it. I will say this. It takes maybe 20% to actually say, hey, Justin, I'm going to do this. Because a lot of people won't even do that, right? Like, hey, I'm going to go to the gym. There's some people who are like, yeah, I'm not going to the gym. They're not even going to try. They're not even going to say they're going to try. Right.
I,
But
I'd,
you,
I'd rather
right?
have them say that. I'd rather have somebody say, no, I'm not going. I don't, it's not for me.
That's good. Yeah, you're right. You're
Right.
probably right. Yeah, you're probably
Marty.
right. You're probably right. You're right.
Well, think about this. I invest. Okay. So for everybody listening, I invest with properties with Marty, right? What do you call me? What am I? A
You're a
loan
lender. Yeah,
lender. Okay.
you're a lender.
Lender.
You're a partner with me, really. You're a partner.
Yeah. So I told I told Marty that I've wanted to do that. And when the opportunity came up, he asked me, and I could have flaked and said, oh no, I didn't really mean that I wanted to do that. I was just like saying, like maybe sometime, like maybe, that thing, which I'm sure you might have gotten before. And I was like, okay, where do I send the check? When?
You did. You did.
And I said, you didn't have to chase me for the check.
No,
No. I drove over there, sent it, done. Okay. And the other day you asked me something about Calendly, and I didn't get back to that day. So that morning I said, I didn't get back to Marty about that. I was going to tell my column. So I texted you. I said, hey, yesterday I told you I get back. I apologize. You good to talk about Calendly? You're like, yeah, this was like 3 days ago. So what it comes down to, I think, is awareness. So in meditation, being present and aware is extreme. It's what it's about. Like presence, awareness, peace, joy, all that stuff too. But there's activities that, like, okay, do you know individuals that say things, you know how we were talking about earlier, like I have a natural energy?
Yes.
Okay. I looked into that throughout the spiritual situation I went through, and a lot of it's natural, but there's a lot of reasons I realize why there's energy there. So let's flip the opposite side. You talk to people who are tired often,
Hmm.
and a lot of times they're saying it's just naturally I'm tired. But when we actually step back and take inventory and look at the activities we're doing throughout the day, we actually realize that we're doing a lot more to contribute to energy draining activities than energizing activities.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what I did, and this is, I'll tell you, and this has to do with selling the business, so that's why I'm going to talk about this. We had a third business partner, love him to death, still talk to him, just got off the phone with him yesterday. We have no ill will. It just wasn't working together, but we tried and we pushed the ball uphill for 3 years together, the third business partner. Excuse me. And one day I decided to, I read this in a book, and then I kind of used my own intuition and created my own thing. And I think I told you I did this, but I took 3 days and wrote down every activity I did, what I ate, who I talked to, like working out, podcast, work, whatever I did throughout 3 days. And the best days are like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday during the week. Don't do the weekends. And then what I did after that is I rated each activity on how it made me happy / energized, 1 through 10.
Wow.
Okay. So for example, working together with this third business partner was like a 3.
Wow.
All right. I didn't realize it was that low until I, went through and took full awareness around this. And this is an activity anybody can do.
This is really good.
So, and then I looked at, what did I eat for breakfast? How'd that make me feel? At the time I was drinking shakes. That was like a 9. I freaking love my shakes. The best recipe for a shake, but and the best protein too. So so that, and then time with my kids. And you realize like I love spending time with my kids, but after a lot of it, it's draining.
Absolutely.
Right. There's some energy
Yeah.
parts of it, but then it gets draining. I was, you notice when it was throughout this process. And there was just a lot of different, again, I haven't talked about this in a while, because this was about 3 years ago. I did this, 2.5. So you go through each one, you rate them 1 through 10, everything. Like if you mow the lawn, is that a 9 or a 10 for you? Or is that a 4? Is that like, as far as happiness and energy, is that something you really enjoy doing? So you do all these things, and then you go through, and your goal is to get rid of anything that's a 7 or less. So at the
Wow.
time, I remember I was emailing 5 different email accounts a day, and because we have a bunch of different products at the time, and I was like a 2 for me mailing 5, but I realized mailing 1 or 2 and keeping my hands on the ball was a 10. I enjoyed doing it. So I delegated 3 of those email lists to an employee.
Awesome.
Right. And then that 2 turned into a 9 or 10.
I love it.
So I got rid of all the things that were stuff. I called my business partner the next day and broke off our business partnership.
Oh my God, what a move.
And it wasn't in a mean way. It was like, hey,
No.
John,
Yeah.
excuse me, dude, like this is something that we got to talk about. And then it was kind of like we both kind of agreed. And he's been better off since, and we've been better off. We sold our company afterwards.
It was probably such a relief for him.
Yeah. He said
Maybe it
that to
was
this day.
upset at the beginning, but then it was a relief after for both you. Is that true?
Yeah. Yes, he wasn't even that up. He was a little bit, but he, again, his personality is not expect much of others, just kind of move through life. Everything works out, everything happens for a reason, that kind of stuff.
Love that. Love that
So
too.
yeah, and it's, again, it's hard to have that mentality because a lot of us operate from fear, which is fine. Again, it's just a learning curve.
I want
So
to tell everybody just to go back and re-listen to that, okay? Because that is insane. I think that is such a great tool to go back and go through your day and find out what gives you energy and what doesn't, even the food you eat. And that is such a telling sign of why you're successful, Justin. That is such a telling sign. Just the little things, right? It's those little things that add up, that really can propel you and push you to that success that some people go, I just don't get why I'm not, breaking through. And it's like those little things that no one really talks about, they don't do, or they're not willing to do those things. And you were. So that's just unbelievable. I was shaking when you were saying that.
yeah, and it's, again, it wasn't always the way I was, right? I was floating through life having no idea what the hell I was doing. I was just hustling,
Yep.
right? And a lot of it has to do with meditation. Helped me sit down and really take stock of my values and what I care about most and what I'm doing. Like, what am I doing throughout the day? So, a lot of, like you said, and it's, again, it's just being aware, right? So how often are we scrolling through our phone? That's an energy draining activity. We know that. I scroll through my phone. I know while I'm doing it, I'm draining my energy, but I don't care at the time. I know I'm doing that.
Really? It drains your
Um,
energy? I did not know that. I swear, I really didn't know. I mean, it makes sense though. I really didn't think that, I really wasn't even thinking that. But I guess it is
but
because I guess when you're looking at stuff that, because a lot of times you're looking at things that maybe give you anxiety, it makes you feel like you're less than because you're seeing people live their best life. It really could probably take away a lot of the wind out of your sail. So that actually makes a lot of sense.
yeah, I mean, even if you're, my wife, she's funny. She'll like see me scrolling at a time and she'll go, oh, more motivation stuff, because a lot of my stuff is motivation. And it's funny because we'll sit there and it'll be like, oh yeah, that gets me going. And then I just go to the next post, oh yeah. And then it just goes to the next. And then eventually I'm like, oh, I'm just kind of just taking this in and not really doing anything with it. And
No,
then I
but I
start getting
like that.
frustrated with myself. And then like it's a lot of this stuff like, and then I'm like, oh man, look at that guy's car. Like, damn, I can't afford a car like that. It'd be cool to afford. And then all of a sudden, you know, because people that are motivated show off their stuff, too. So that you start getting, like you said, you start getting envious. So you don't realize, but maybe 5 minutes of it isn't training, right? But the next 15 are. Who
Right.
knows?
I
But
agree
it's
with that.
important to take inventory of this. You know, is eating, not, eat, like, for example, I was telling you when I picked Tuesdays and Thursdays to do my podcast. On those days, I made sure that I ate for energy because I wanted to give my best self, right? So I made sure my meals, I was eating for energy. I wasn't eating for taste, like a burger or something, because that would totally drain you.
What would you eat?
What would I eat? So I would have my
Yeah, because
shakes.
I'm full right now, and I probably made a bad choice with what I ate.
So it had to be energy, right? So I
Yeah.
would have my shakes. I would have my chicken salads, right?
Okay.
Just those basic things. Like I didn't eat anything with tons of cheese on it, tons
Oh,
of
that's where I messed
sodium,
up. That's where I messed up.
pastas, stuff like that. Anything heavy. What'd you
Okay.
have?
I had like eggs and cheese. I was like, I'll have just a little bit of cheese, and then I added some rice to it, and then with some hot sauce, and then I'm
That's
just,
not bad.
yeah, I know, but I
Eggs and
think I might have
rice.
overdid it a bit. But here's one thing I wanted to talk about too, because I fell into meditation. I and now I can't get away from it. I always say like in the morning, I'm like I don't always have to do it every morning because I'm following this guy Alex Hormozy, who's just an absolute beast, and he's like, you don't have to like literally have to do your morning routine every single day. Like you don't want to have to where if you miss your morning routine, you feel like crap. And I
Right.
was like, you know what? That was happening a little bit for me. I felt like I was gonna, lose my momentum if I didn't do every single thing on my morning routine. So then I was like, I don't want to be a prisoner to this, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of, but I always when I do my meditation, I feel better, right? So it's like, okay, it's a discipline. It's something that it's like going to the gym. obviously I don't always want to go to the gym, but every time I do it, I feel better. So it's like I'm in a tough spot there, but I know it's always a benefit to do it. How did you even come across meditation? Like how does that even happen for someone like you?
So there was an event that changed my life. And I know, actually, I know, and I don't care, but some people have different feelings on Tony Robbins. Some people say he's a kook. Some people say he's amazing.
I
He
love
changed my
him.
life. He changed my life.
Absolutely.
I went to an event, and that event was 7 days and 7 nights. It was called Date with Destiny. And for me personally, it woke me up to the track I was on in life. And it was not a good one at the time. This was actually, yeah, I was making a bunch of money, but at the time, I thought that's what would make me happy, was just keep making money, right? Keep making money. And it was
Right.
funny. I realized at this event, here's something that's really interesting for people listening. I realized at that event that my number one priority that I thought about every day was getting to the $10 million point of earning money. And then I'll be set. Then I'll be happy.
That's my
So,
number.
right. So, but I was realizing that was like I thought about that every day. Right. So I need, get that 10 million. How can I grind? What can I do to get to that 10 million? Now, here's the epiphany I had. What if I never in my life got to that 10 million? Or what if it took me till 60 to get to that?
Oh my God, this
Then,
is good.
then from 30 years old to 60, 30 years of my life, I was just thinking about the future, never living in the present, and never happy, truly happy with where I was at in life.
Oh
Because I was,
God.
that that was like a light bulb aha moment at this event. Like, holy crap. And then, and the fact that I was putting money number one in my life was also like a thing. And I was wondering why I was like miserable half the day, and like always make like a ball buster all the time. You know what I mean? Like all these things that I just thought was who I was, but I wasn't realizing what it was that was affecting me to do that. So that event did introduce me to meditation, but I still thought it was weird. I was like, this is stupid. Like Tony, like they were making us meditate, and I would just like close my eyes at the time. So I understand when people hear this, they're like, oh boy, meditation, because I was there. And the thing that changed it though was a little bit of that, and then reading a book called Miracle Mornings, What Millionaires Do. And I was like, I'll try this Miracle Mornings out.
Hal
And
Elrod, great book.
2 days after meditating, 2 days, something changed inside of me. And I was like, what? What? I just remember being like, again, remember we talked about feelings you'll never get again. I'll never get that feeling again where something cracked in my brain, because I don't think I truly ever in at the time 34 years of living or 33 years of living just stopped and was silent and got rid of my thoughts for 5 minutes, for 2 minutes. If I stopped and was silent, my brain was doing something, talking to me, thinking about something, the next move, this or that, somebody else mad at, whatever it was. I never actually, and you know, think that I ever had a time where I sat down for 4 minutes and just didn't think about anything. And after 2 days, it like I can't explain the feeling, right? It's too hard to articulate. So I just had to keep going. And it was just this thing opened up. I have a 21-day course that I created. I would have never been able to create that course if I didn't meditate. There was no
Hmm.
way I'd have the motivation or the creativity. Like I always
Wow.
consider myself like smart, but not creative at all. When I'm meditating, open up something so creative in my mind, like this creative block just like exploded. And I wanted to just create things. And I became a teacher on Insight Timer, a bunch of recordings, meditations, thousands of 5-star reviews, some 4 stars. It's just the way it is. Did the podcast, all that stuff. So it's extremely motivating. So somebody asked me, should you exercise it? Would you rather exercise every morning, or would you meditate every morning if you had to choose? And I always say meditation first, because like if you're going to choose to do something consistently, because once you do that, something will unlock inside of you that you'll want to go and exercise regularly.
Wow, that's amazing.
Do you know what I
That's so
mean?
good. No, that's so good. I got,
and that's the truth. And
I'm getting
that's only because it's my
goosebumps from
experience.
that.
It's because it's my experience. And that's there's so much to talk. We could do 5 hours on meditation and how it changed my life, but we won't. If somebody asked me, this
We
word came up
should.
one.
Let's just go. Let's just go.
This word came up, and I realize I'm not a guru. All I'm saying, I'm a 37-year-old white dude, right? So like, I understand that. Like, I completely understand that the last thing the world needs is another 37-year-old white dude. Like, boom, boom, baya, right? But like, I am just talking from my experience, right?
No,
My
hey,
personal
I think
experience.
don't cut yourself. That's no. I'm not going to allow that. Don't no, because there you have a ton of value, and I think that thought process is one of the reasons why I think you maybe stopped your podcast is because you think that there was some sort of limiting belief there. And I'm saying that as a friend and as someone who thinks that, and obviously I know there was a lot of other things that went into play that because we talked about this. But man, I thought I thought it was a really, really great thing that you did. It was a great show. And maybe you'll get back to it. I'm not saying you got to do it tomorrow. But I think it's something that you should rethink about because I really think you want to, for my own selfish ideas, something that you should revisit. But anyway, we can talk about that later.
Yeah, it's
Um,
an interesting. Well, again, I go with awareness, right? What I realized is that I was falling down a territory in a section that with guests and like stuff where I wasn't enjoying it as much as
mm,
I was in the beginning.
fair enough.
It started becoming a chore, and I had to start putting a lot more focus on my business to sell it,
Yeah.
because that was kind of like happening towards the end of my podcast. And so I decided that I was going to go to 100 guests and just stop it so that I can put my focus elsewhere. And yeah, that's pretty much the reason. I wasn't really, it truthfully wasn't because I was enjoying it. I learned so much, and you're going to learn a ton throughout this process. If there was one thing that somebody asked me, I spoke to a bunch of high schoolers locally here about entrepreneurship recently. And the question was, what if there's one piece of advice you can give somebody besides just doing it, just like go create that thing, like shut a podcast off and just go create that thing. It would be relationships. So there's nothing, the reason I was able to sell my business was relationships. The person that bought it was someone that we knew.
Mm,
Um, through relationships, through somebody else, right?
yes.
All the connections we made to grow the business was all relationships, going to events. The thing that changed my life going to that event was creating that relationship with that individual and the other people in the room. Relationships, hands down, um, is the number one thing. And one really cool tip that I'll give people listening, and I think you do this, Marty, is often, not every day, but often I'll text people something in the morning, or not people, but somebody random, an individual, somebody I haven't talked to in a while, somebody I may have hurt in the past that I just recently thought about. And I was like, oh man, I never really apologized to that person, or somebody that might need just words of encouragement, or just my mom and dad, just to tell them I love them. Right. And I'll just send these messages out 4 or 5 days a week in the morning. And I've had people respond and tell me like, oh my God, you have no idea how bad I needed that message. Thank you. Like, this week's been
Wow.
rough, and I've had people just respond, what's up, dude? Or something like that, whatever, it doesn't matter. But again, it has to do with relationships. So I like to I think I mentioned this to you. If you ever needed to reach out to somebody, it's a lot easier to reach out to them and ask for a favor or ask for help or whatever it is. Maybe you start a business and you're, a lawn mowing business, and you reach out to everybody in your phone that lives locally. And you're like, hey, if you ever need someone to mow your lawn, let me know. It's a lot easier to say that if you've reached out to them in the past year,
What a tip. No, that's
you
such
know?
a good tip, man. That's so good. Yeah, I think, you were inspired me to do that. And then I've now heard it a couple different times, but I think doing those little things is I think that's like a way of like karma to come around to like just good things happen. Like you put a smile on someone's face, then you feel good about it. Like, it's
Right.
funny, like we do it to try to make other people feel good, and then all of a sudden you feel just as good when you do that for somebody, and they say, "Wow, I really needed that." And now you go, "Okay, you just got to freaking zoom on the back. Like you just right through life right after that because you just felt so good." And I think that helps with momentum, that's with your energy, you're starting to attract. better things. You know, that, so it all makes sense that that would happen for you because you're doing the things again that I don't think a lot of people do. They're so head down, not thinking about anybody else. It's just, you know, money, 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 or it's, you know, trying to, but you're like, hey, it's relationships. Like all these things don't typically, like when you look at a business, equal money, but it's actually exactly what equals money. The relationships are, you know, doing the good things, the energy, the positivity, those things that attract other great things into your life. I don't think there's no like formula for it other than it's just something that you have to want to do. And if you do, I think it all works out. But that's amazing, man.
We, well, Marty, just listening to exactly what you just said, you kind of rounded up the conversation with with everything we talked about. Uh, I believe, and I know this just because it's happened in my life, and I've seen it a dozen times, dozens of times. Everything you just talked about allows us to see, you know, keeping an open heart, all that kind of stuff allows us to see the opportunities that come our way and take advantage of them and be prepared for them. One of my favorite quotes was from an old mentor. You know who he is. He would always say, most prepared mind always wins. Right. And so if you're, you know, staying in this space, in this, that we're talking about today, and doing these things, or sometimes doing them, and just keeping an open mind and open heart, you'll see the opportunities. That's another difference between people who are quote unquote successful in life and not. I'm not going to tell you who, because I'm not going to call them out on the podcast, but I have several people that I know have had handed golden opportunities in their life and are just so blocked
Yeah.
emotionally, spiritually, lifely, if that's even a word, just so blocked and blind to that. And it'll hit them in the face 15 times, 15 different ways. And then they'll still be, you know, struggling and hating their life and wonder why. And just from the outside, just be like, dude, you missed 15 different opportunities where you could have changed that. Like,
Absolutely.
how did you not see it? Right. And so I think that I think not most people have those opportunities in their life, especially if you're, you know, living, you know, grew up in a middle class family. You probably have even, you know, more of those than most. So,
Absolutely.
you know, that's why it's important. That's why what you just said and is so important, because you're going to get those in your life, and you got to take advantage of them. The reason we sold our business was literally just because we were talking to people about us doing it, and somebody heard us talking about it and told somebody, and then got back to us, and like, that's just how it worked. It wasn't, you know, and we had a broker working on it too, but they didn't even do it. It was us talking to people,
That's amazing.
you know, and that's, you know, if we, you know, that's that person that bought us was also in that space, right? They saw an opportunity to buy us, and we sold for high seven figures.
I
And I
love
mean,
that.
it changes your life when you do that. Like, I'm not living differently, but I'm a lot more comfortable. You know what
Yeah,
I mean? Like,
yeah,
I didn't
no,
change my
definitely.
lifestyle. I
Definitely.
did not.
But there is a big pool in the back of your yard. That's it's
I
really
already
cool.
had it though. I already had it.
It's amazing. How's
I
that?
did. Again, I didn't change my lifestyle because I was doing, you know, I was financially doing okay before. But it's you know, it's a lot more comfortable now.
It's inspiring, man. It's inspiring.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to really kind of make this full circle. The reason why I brought up the sales stuff, the insurance time, because you deserve it now. You got to understand from my point of view, right? Because I know you said, oh, I forget about this stuff. I'm focused on my day, and I get that, and I can appreciate that. But when anybody goes, hey, so I just sold my business, and they go, yeah, okay, oh my God, seven figures, eight figures, right? All these things. I always go, that guy deserves it. People are like, oh man, F this guy, or oh well, he was lucky. And it's like, you should have seen him. I know, I remember because I was doing the same thing. I was selling a video on a city website, right?
Yeah, we
You
were.
guys got to understand something. Like this isn't something where it's like, oh, by the way, it's like anytime somebody gets something like you did when you did, but you earned it. You earned it because of the shit you had to do. And there's a story there, whether we want to talk about, whether it's like something that's always on top of your mind or not, it's what got you to where you are today. Believe it or not. So where you were was exactly where you needed to be to get to where you are today. That's what I believe. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great way to put it. 100%. People, there's nothing I would change because obviously what got me to here, everything had to have happened. The
Exactly.
arguments, the hard arguments with the spouse,
Yep.
right? The hard arguments with the business partner, the breaking up with the business partner, the adding, the learning, it's everything. Everything adds up to that moment. And on my website, and I'm not promoting anything currently, but on my
Please do.
website, just I'm just not in the I'm not making my rounds right now. I have justinfrancisco.com. It's harmonize relationships in your home and everything falls in place a lot easier. So
Mm.
the wife and I do therapy and we have hard conversations, and we're not perfect by any means, but we're always working on it and growing, and then being a good parent and taking time for that, and making the house the home you want it to be as best as possible, so that everything else just kind of falls into place easier. Is a big tip that I like to.
No, that's an amazing tip because I think that's, what do they say? Tough times lead to hard men create easy times create weak men create hard times. So when you have those hard conversations, that's how you that's how you break through though, because it's like, well, you can either do it hard now to live easy, or we could have the easy conversation to live hard later. It's like going to the gym. It's always easier to kind of bring everything back to that, because it's like, hey, go through the tough time now going to the gym to live a easier life potentially than just forget the gym and then just struggle and have a really shitty life down the road if you're not taking care of your health. But I want to
Or
be
do you have any?
cognizant of your time. I want to be
Do you have
cognizant of
any?
your time.
That's fine. I mean, honestly, I could, dude. I again remember this is one of my energizing
Do you
things.
feel
Talking to
more energy
somebody.
talking to me?
Oh my god, I'll leave this thing ready to go bench 5,000 pounds, like ready to
Let's
go.
go.
Um, yeah, maybe it's because I just love hearing myself talk. No, it's not really why. No, again, everything that I'm mentioning is just a 100% facts. You know what I mean? It's just it's exactly what I went through, what I learned. But again, it wasn't always like there's a whole different. There's a lot of ups and downs that go through all that. Do you have any fears, Marty?
Yeah, absolutely. In the fear became very clear when I heard it on Ed Milet show, when he said that he thinks hell, or a fear of his, but he basically equated it to his own hell, is that when we go to heaven and God shows you what your life could have been if you reached your potential. Like, this is what you should have been if you would have done the things that you knew you needed to do. And this is what your life could have looked like. That's what scares me, is that I potentially could miss out on that, of a life that I'm supposed to truly live. That's my biggest fear.
So then the next question would, and I love that. And then so the next question is, what does living a full life mean to you? You don't have to answer that, but
No, I think let's try this experiment, because I
so yeah, so what specifically does, because people say that, right? And then it's like, okay, so what is it? Is it living on a beach and then you wake up to the ocean every morning?
no, it's
Is it
not
having
that.
8 kids?
No,
Is
it's
it what?
definitely not that.
What is it that is like living your fullest potential, like, or being happy?
This is gonna sound crazy, but I'm fucking doing it. I really think I'm fucking doing it. And I'll
And
tell you
that's not
why.
crazy. I love
I'll
it.
tell you why. Because something happened in my mind, 2 years ago, not even a year ago, where I stopped giving a fuck about what other people think. And it was very difficult, because I think you and I are the same in regards to, in the beginning, college and early 20s, and, or maybe even early 30s, you are trying to you're trying to figure out things first off, but at the same time, you're trying, it's kind of like you're putting on a show for other people because you think that's what you're supposed to do. Like, hey, you think that I'm this guy, so that means I have to be that guy, right? And that is not who you're. That's really not what your identity is. You know who you really are when you're by yourself. And so I decided that because I had been thinking about doing this for so long, doing a podcast, but I was like, just what are people going to think? I don't want them to think I'm this, hey, I think I'm so cool and da 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 da. I don't care. And it's felt so good to do it. I mean, I'm putting out the videos now, I'm doing the shows, I'm putting myself out there. And every time I put myself out there, I get more confident. So it's such a kind of a mind shift because you'd think, well, if I keep it inside, then I don't want to let myself out there because I don't want my confidence to be pushed or punched by people saying things. And it's been the complete opposite. It's the more I put out there and the more I put myself out there, the more confident I get. And it's so crazy, but it's also makes sense because I remember one of the biggest selling things, one of the biggest selling techniques is you have to give to get. You have to give them something. You have to tell them about yourself. You have to open up, and then you can get something back. And so, yeah, I think I'm really living it. I really do. What about you?
Sweet. That's awesome. That's 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 great. That's I guess the perfect scenario, right?
Why not? Yeah,
Yeah.
someone's got to live the perfect life, and it should be
Well,
me.
yeah, I mean, and again, and it could change in 6 months or 2 years.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That's one thing that I've realized is that it's okay to change. Do you know what it like you might love doing this for 5 years and then just hey, I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna pivot, I'm gonna pivot this and do this or this or whatever. And it's okay. That stuff's okay. Sometimes we get scared of changing, right? But again, that's that uncomfortableness. You just said it. Like we could stay comfortable and think that's giving us confidence.
I
But
agree. I agree. I'm trying to figure out what's going to make me uncomfortable because I really, and I have to credit this all to wrestling. And
yeah.
that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show is because I think I wanted to talk to wrestlers. So I'm glad I talked to you, someone who's, not a wrestler, but it's good because in the fact that I think I really won by doing that because of just the discipline it gave me and the uncomfortability of going on the mat you by yourself in front of a crowd and you got a singlet on right in front of all these people and oh by the way you are sucking weight and you have to go into to parties and to the lunchroom and eat just this tuna can and all
Right.
those things that looking back I can't believe I was able to do but I did it and so I just think that I kind of got an unfair advantage by doing that because now there's really not much that could make me uncomfortable but I also was kind of the guy that was like when I was a kid, I would go out and do Broadway show nights and I would sing in front of people in seventh and eighth grade. So, I kind of just got used to being uncomfortable, but yeah, I don't know, man. I also, one of the things you said about when people can't see opportunity and they could be handed everything and they're just still not happy and
Hmm.
they're just not figuring it out. You know what I think the key is? Do you know what it is?
Tell me.
Gratefulness.
Yeah. That's a great way to have an open heart is just be grateful, right? First for things. That's what that Sabers method is part of describing, right? What are you grateful for? Just write down 5 things. It's funny, Marty and I we're like-minded, right? So we used to send each other like our grateful list for the day. Do you
Oh
remember
wow,
that?
that's right.
It's been a
Yeah.
while.
Oh
It's
my
been a
God,
while.
that's
Basically, like, look what I
amazing.
wrote today. Look what I wrote today. Look what I
That's
wrote today, right?
amazing. We should get
It's kind
back
of
to that.
yeah, dude. If you hold each other accountable like that every now and then, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff.
No, I think gratefulness is really important, and I think that it will help you when you're feeling like a certain way, good or bad. Just feeling grateful for it's like, hey, I got shelter. I mean, we could go crazy on this subject. We could go nuts.
Yeah, I
Just
mean,
because
and
it's
yeah,
stupid,
and you can go
crazy.
on social media and find a million people that talk about that too, right? Because it's so important. That's
Yeah.
why, it's
Yeah.
like don't wash it. Like somebody might be listening and go, here we go with gratefulness again, right? Like, but like the reason it's repeated so much is because of how powerful and important it is. Like
Yeah.
there's
But that's another
no
thing,
denying it. You
Justin. That's
have
another
to.
thing. I don't think a lot of people even know.
You know what? You
It's
might be
because
right.
we are so
Immersed.
brainwashed and we watch the same. That's when you go,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm on my phone, I'm looking through all my motivational people, and it's like, yeah, I think that. Yeah, I'm like, you know how many people are not doing that, bro? It's everyone's the complete opposite. They're looking at all the bullshit. I think
Okay, then here's the thing. Then,
go.
if there's people listening that aren't attuned to that or see it, like you're right. That's another. You're totally right. So, for example, I thought everybody knew who Tony Robbins was. So every time I tell my story to somebody random or somebody I meet, they're like, "Who's Tony?" I can't
Exactly.
believe how many people. I'm like, "Holy shit! I thought everybody knew who he was." So
Exactly.
anyway, um, so we're talking about confidence, like sometimes it's not fair because you did that stuff when you were little, so you naturally gain confidence, right? Or maybe your parents instilled it in you. But same with myself, you know growing up, I couldn't do no wrong. My parents were like, you're the best, and like it gave
Exactly.
me so much damn confidence, like it was
Yeah.
almost blind confidence, um which is fine, right? So but there's some people didn't grow up that way,
100%.
so they have to relearn. They have to unlearn and relearn. And trust me, I had a lot of things I had to unlearn and relearn. I compassion, empathy, all that stuff, still learning. But one thing I heard that I'll never forget, that taught people how to have confidence, real simple thing. Little wins. Doesn't need to be selling a company for 7 figures to gain confidence. Did you wake up and did you floss before you went to bed? Boom, confidence. Because
Wow.
98% of people are not flossing at night before they go to bed.
Boom. So good.
doing the little things, right? Did you treat your body with respect today? Boom, confidence. Did you go to the gym? Confidence. Did you eat? Did you make the last meal you had? Was it a decently healthy choice? Boom, and realize these little things you're doing that are just those are wins, and you can
That's
just
so
add
good.
them up, add them up,
So
add them
good.
up, and those little things, and then just do even extra stuff. But it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be huge. Read a book. If you haven't read a book, go read a book.
Mm,
Huge win.
huge win.
Huge win. If you only read 2 books a year, read 5. It's a huge win. Um, that gives you so much more confidence. Those kind of things. And
Well, let
and
me
so if
add
you're
to that
somebody that's
too.
learning,
Let me add
yeah,
to that
go
too,
ahead.
because I really want to elaborate a bit on that because it's something that I've been thinking about a lot is confidence. And it's because I'm the biggest believer that the more confidence we have in ourselves, the bigger risks we're willing to take,
Sure, sure.
right? And the bigger risks we're willing to take, that's how you can hit those grand slams of selling a business for 7 figures. That's
Yeah,
just my opinion, right?
yeah.
And I don't even think it's opinion, it's a fact. Here's the other thing about that. And I want to dig in a bit. It's not just the little wins, it's recognizing the win. So it's doing it, but then going, I did it, and not glossing over it
Yeah.
and giving yourself that credit. Because I think people kind of they'll do it, and they'll do it, and then they'll go, okay, I needed to do all five or whatever. No, you do the one, and then just remember it, like really punch it down, and be like, yep, got it. Wow, that felt good.
Smile.
Yeah,
Got it.
yeah, got
Smile
it.
about it. Smile
Yep,
about it.
smile about it and recognize it. And that way
Yeah.
it kind of hits and settles in a bit. The other thing I'll say on it, because like I said, I'm constantly thinking about how I can do this because as business owners, we're always trying to get more confidence because trust me, there's punches in the stomach that can take out that confidence. So we're always building up that muscle. And I think it's the little wins, but it's keeping the promises to yourself. If you say you're going to floss,
Yeah.
floss. If you say you're going to go to the gym. If you say so, it doesn't have to be a lot of them, but
There
you
it is right
keep it.
there.
You keep that promise, and
That's
that is how you really, really gain confidence.
that's next level type. Yes, that is absolutely true. That's great, Marty. And when you tell yourself something, do it. And then
Yes.
that's how you
Well, and
gain
that
some
all
big time
comes full
confidence.
circle because that's what you said when you said, "Hey, I'm gonna do this," I actually got back to people. I actually went to Denver. I
Yeah.
actually did email that person. I actually did text Marty back. Those are the reasons why you have confidence, because you've kept the promises, right? I mean, that's
Goal.
really what it is.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, this is like, this isn't just something that you do and then you have it forever. It's an effort. It's a yearly, weekly, monthly, whatever you want to say effort, because talk to almost any, what do you want to call them, a guru or whoever, they'll tell you they suffer from imposter syndrome all the time. Even if they have 5 million followers, there's at times they'll still go, why are people listening to me? Like, I don't, what the heck? And they'll fall into that sometimes.
I agree.
Right. Right, Marty. I mean,
I think, and I think I
I
know
only know
why.
that from interviewing people on my old podcast. That's the only reason I know that.
Well, I think I know why. I think I know why people have imposter syndrome. It's because we're all learning.
Yeah.
We're all learning from someone else. And we learn, for me, the reason why I'm doing the show is that it's for me to learn. And then it's also for me to regurgitate some of the things I've learned to teach people so that it cements even more in my brain. I mean,
Yeah.
that's why I want to be a teacher. That's why I'm a coach. That's why I'm a mental mindset coach, is because it helps me remember things better. And it's something that I practice now. So I think that's one of the reasons why we have imposter syndrome, is because, hey, it's like, well, I just learned that from, Ed Milet or Tony Robbins or Jim Rohn. I mean, these are all things that I've learned, and now I'm saying it. But people still need a mouthpiece. Okay, people still need to hear it from Marty Grisani. They need to hear it from Justin Francisco. People still need to hear it from different points of view, because I don't have two kids, but Justin does, right? I didn't start where Justin did, and I didn't sell a seven-figure business, but Justin did. But Justin hasn't been in properties, in flipped houses, in built up portfolios, but Marty has. And that's why you need to hear from me. But that's also why, if you're going down Justin's point, that's why you need it from Justin. So everybody's going to hear it from different people, because it's going to resonate with them, and that's what's going to get them to the next level. And that's what we're here to do, is to get people to the next level.
I love it. It's all great. Just, yeah, that's great, man. That was awesome. This was awesome.
I feel like this was a good way to wrap up.
Yeah.
I feel like that the last 20, 30 minutes has really been like the power for people. Like, if you were listening in the beginning, I'm sorry, that was my fault. Justin was great. I had a couple of questions that were swings and misses, but guess what? It's my first episode, so
I think you did
either
great,
get with
Marty.
it or get without it, because I'm still going to be here and I'm going to still rock and roll. Justin, I want to thank you so much for being on the show. You are a delight. You are a great friend. You are a better father, and you are a mentor. And I can't wait to see what you do next.
Hey, you're incredible, Marty. Honestly, I appreciate what you're doing here. We need more of this, and thank you for having me. Honestly, it was fun.
I had a
Thank
lot
you.
of fun. All right, buddy. See ya. See you guys.
Bye.
Thanks for showing up.